It was a cold night in Denver, Colorado. The wind carried the smell of smoke long before the sirens began to cry through the dark streets. Inside the roaring red truck, veteran firefighter Michael Grant, 46 years old, adjusted his helmet and took a deep breath. 25 years of service, and yet every fire still made his heart pound like the first. He had seen the worst of human pain, homes swallowed by flames, families broken, tears in the ashes. But he had also witnessed miracles, the kind that no science could explain. And somehow he felt tonight would be one of those nights. Station 19 responding to Maple Street, number 162, said the radio. The fire had devoured most of the old house, windows blown out. The orange glow danced wildly over the roof. As Michael stepped out, the heat hit him like a wall. He could feel it in his bones, but then a sound, a faint cry, a child's voice. "There's someone inside!" Michael shouted, already running toward the flames. "Grant, wait, the roof's about to go!" yelled his partner Jake. But Michael didn't wait. Inside, smoke wrapped the air like a living shadow. He could barely see his own hand, yet the cry came again, soft, trembling, begging for help. "I'm here!" he shouted back. He pushed through the burning hallway until, through the haze, he saw her. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, standing in the middle of the flames. She wore a white dress untouched by soot, her face calm, her eyes peaceful. "Help me," she said softly. Without thinking, Michael rushed forward, wrapped her in his fireproof coat and carried her out. The roof collapsed behind him, fire raging like a beast, but somehow it never touched them. It was as if the flames themselves parted to make a way. Outside, he fell to his knees, coughing, shaking. The girl was safe, perfectly unharmed, but when he looked again, she was gone. If it were you, would you run into the fire for someone you weren't even sure was real? When Michael lifted his head, she had vanished. Only the burned blanket he'd wrapped her in remained. "Where's the girl?" he asked the paramedics. No one had seen her. No neighbors had reported missing children, no sign of anyone else inside. The captain walked up, puzzled. "Grant, we found no one. No bodies. No survivors." "That's impossible," Michael protested. "I held her in my arms." They went back into the ruins, and that's when the impossible became undeniable. The room where he claimed to have found her was untouched. No soot, no burn marks, no smoke damage. Like the fire had stopped at the doorway. Jake looked uneasy. "Mike, are you sure you didn't inhale too much smoke?" Michael didn't answer. Deep down, he knew what he'd seen. The weight of that small body, the sound of her voice, it was real. And yet, logic offered no explanation. Have you ever faced something that defied all reason, but deep down, you knew it was true? Days passed, but sleep refused to come. Every night, Michael woke in a sweat, hearing that same voice echoing through his dreams. Desperate, he turned to Chaplain Thomas, the old firehouse pastor. "Maybe God showed you something beyond what human eyes can see," Thomas said gently. "An angel?" Michael asked, half laughing, half afraid. "Sometimes angels don't appear with wings, son. Sometimes they look like someone your heart recognizes as innocent." But Michael needed proof. He drove back to Maple Street. Among the ashes, something glimmered, a silver necklace, perfectly intact, with a small cross pendant. He picked it up, feeling the cold metal press into his palm. It was clean, unburned, unexplainable. That night he sat staring at it for hours. Maybe she didn't need to be found. Maybe she had been sent. If this happened to you, would you believe it was divine, or would you try to explain the unexplainable? The next morning, sunlight touched the ruins. Michael walked carefully among them. Each step echoed with memories of screams, heat, and that peaceful gaze in the middle of chaos. He stopped at the same spot where she had stood. Everything was destroyed, except a small, perfect patch of untouched ground. He held the necklace tight in his hand. A soft breeze brushed his face, and for a second He heard it again. "Thank you." He spun around. Nothing. Just silence. Back at the station, the captain noticed. "Grant, you fought 100 fires, but this one changed you." Michael sighed. "Because she was real, Captain. I held her." The man nodded slowly. "Sometimes what we feel is truer than what we see." That night, the necklace gleamed faintly on his table. Michael realized that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a mystery to solve, but a message to receive. Would you believe in a sign like that? Or would you call it coincidence? The dreams returned, but now they were peaceful. He saw the house, whole again. The little girl playing in the garden, a woman waving from the porch. Then, flames swallowed everything, and he woke, gasping. Determined to find answers, Michael searched the city archives. What he found left him frozen. 30 years ago, a family had died in that exact same house, victims of a fire caused by an electrical fault. Among the victims, Lily Parker, age 8. The name hit him like a shock. He turned the necklace over. On the back, engraved letters read, LP. His hands trembled. Lily Parker. The same girl, the same white dress. Why her? Why now? Michael didn't know, but one thing was clear. This was no ghost story. This was a message from beyond the flames. Have you ever felt that some moments happen not by chance, but because heaven itself allowed it? Michael began to withdraw. He spoke little, ate little. The Firehouse brothers worried. Jake tried to lift his spirit. "You've seen too much smoke, man. Don't let a ghost haunt you." "She wasn't a ghost," Michael said firmly. "I know what I saw." Jake frowned. "Then what do you think she was?" Michael glanced at the necklace. A warning, a reminder, maybe an angel. That night, staring at the flames in his fireplace, he noticed how they moved. Slower, almost gentle. He whispered a prayer, the first in years, not asking for proof, just thanking God. Have you ever felt protected without knowing why? Saved from something you never saw coming? 2 weeks later, another emergency, a school on fire. Michael and Jake rushed there, sirens wailing, chaos everywhere, smoke, crying children, panic. Michael ran inside, and then he heard it again. "Michael!" He froze, that same voice. Here, through the smoke, he saw her. The same white figure standing by a locked door, her hand pointing. Behind it, faint sobs. Without hesitation, he broke it down and pulled out 3 small children, coughing and crying. As soon as they were safe, the ceiling collapsed behind him. Jake looked at him in shock. "How did you know they were there?" Michael just stared back, trembling. "I didn't," he whispered. "She did." If God sent an angel to guide you, would you recognize it or call it luck? After that rescue, the newspapers called him a hero. But Michael knew the truth. It wasn't him. It was grace. When investigators examined the scene, they found something impossible again. The section of the hallway where the children had been trapped was completely untouched by fire. Just like the Maple House. That night, Michael drove out of the city. Snow fell softly around him as he knelt on the hill, the cross necklace in his hand. "I don't understand, Lord," he whispered, "but I know what I saw." A gentle warmth surrounded him. The wind calmed. For the first time, peace, pure and deep, filled his chest. And then, a voice within. "The fire never burned you, Michael. It was never meant to destroy, only to remind you that you're never alone." Tears streamed down his face. He wasn't afraid anymore. He was free. Have you ever realized that your survival wasn't luck, but protection? Michael returned to duty, but something in him had changed. The man who once feared the blaze now faced it with peace. He prayed quietly before each call, trusting that even in the flames, he was never alone. Chaplain Thomas smiled when he saw him again. "I see a man who no longer fears the fire," he said. Michael replied, "Because I've learned that it's not me who overcomes the fire. It's God who keeps it from consuming me." One evening, Jake asked, "You still think she was an angel?" Michael looked out at the sunset, the sky glowing like embers. "I don't think," he said softly. "I know. What if, in your battles, there's a silent presence protecting you? Would you have the faith to believe it?" Months later, a new emergency broke the calm. A residential building on fire, the biggest blaze of his career, dozens trapped. As the crew fought the flames, Michael froze. On the 5th floor, through the smoke, a small white figure stood watching him. Lily. She didn't speak, just pointed upward. He followed her gesture, climbing one more floor, and found an elderly woman unconscious behind a collapsed beam. He carried her out just before the ceiling caved in. Outside, gasping for air, he looked up, but the white figure was gone. No trace, just falling ash and peace in his heart. He knew then he'd never see her again, but she would always be there. What if the angel who saves you isn't meant to stay, only to remind you to keep believing? Years passed. Michael retired and began visiting schools, teaching about courage and faith. He always shared his story, not as a legend, but as truth. "Sometimes," he told the children, "the fire comes to test you, not to destroy, but to reveal who walks with you." After one talk, a little girl approached him. "Mr. Grant," she said shyly, "my mom told me you saved me from a fire when I was a baby." He smiled warmly. "She said she saw a girl in white beside you that night," the child added. Michael froze. "She saw her?" "Yes. Mom said she looked like an angel." He looked up, eyes misty, and touched the necklace still hanging on his chest. "Do you believe angels still walk among us? Or do you think miracles belong only to the past?" Dear friends of Tales of Faith, this story isn't just about fire. It's about faith. About the kind of flame that purifies instead of destroys. Firefighter Michael Grant learned that divine protection doesn't always appear in visible form, but it's real. Psalm 91:11 says, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." This verse reminds us that God's care never leaves us, even when everything around us burns. Sometimes he sends a child, sometimes a word, sometimes silence. But he's always there. If you're facing your own fire right now, a storm, a loss, a fear, remember, the flames won't destroy you. They'll reveal that you were never alone. Close your eyes and pray with me. "Lord, thank you for protecting me even when I don't see it. Give me faith to recognize your presence in every trial. Let every fire I face strengthen my trust in you." Amen. May this story strengthen your faith. And now I ask you, what would you have done if you were in Michael's place? Would you believe the angel was real? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to Tales of Faith, and join us again for more stories of hope, courage, and divine grace. Until next time, stay safe, stay faithful. God bless you.